What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan, and this is the daily news for Tuesday, the 12th of December. Yeah, bit of a rough weekend for United, and just back to form after Everton's 2-0 dispatch of Chelsea. It kind of puts into perspective our result against Chelsea. It's always nice to beat a big name, but Chelsea have been a shadow of their former selves and have been remarkably poor for a majority of the season. And even after the Chelsea win, I was still a bit speculative. But, 3-0 Everton, 2-1 Chelsea, you start thinking, okay, maybe we're turning a corner. And then, as usual, this team lets you down. I can understand the pressure on Ten Hag at the moment, but I am stubbornly refusing to give up on that man when there's so much else wrong at the club. I think the guy deserves a strong foundation on which to try and build his Manchester United career. He showed very good decision making last year. Our XG was down last year. Defensively, we were very good, but we didn't score a lot, and we scored a lot of the opportunities that we created. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but yeah, it seems this season we're just not able to put the ball away, and we're very leaky at the back and players out of position. And his decision making, things like dropping Varane, regardless of what's happening there. I don't know what Varane did, but to keep persisting with him on the bench and rotating Johnny Evans and Lindelof it's hurting Ten Hag's results. Now, is it admirable that he's willing to forgo his strongest 11 to lay down a marker and instill the culture he wants at the club? That's admirable. Is he going to be given enough time to see the fruits of that labor if he keeps losing and not playing the players he needs to kind of keep him in the job? Remains to be seen. And the Anthony Martial circus needs to end, and playing him. I'd be playing John Hugel, the youth team player who's been playing quite well. I'd even have Pellistri, I'd have Garnacho, I'd have anyone starting up front over Anthony Martial at this stage. It's gone beyond a joke how disappointing he's been. So yeah, the English press said he had no chance. Maybe they were right. Maybe we need to retire that song because he's been very disappointing the last few years and for a majority of his career. Anyway, roll on Bayern Munich tomorrow, and I don't know how that game is going to go. I think I do. But it's exactly the kind of game where United could turn around and pump a couple of goals in. I mean, we seem to be scoring plenty in Europe. We just can't keep it out the other end. But with Harry Kane visiting, doesn't bode well. Anyway, let's have a quick look at some of the articles that are coming up today. Coming up on today's episode, problematic United star Sancho open to discussing a January exit after big U-turn, with Juventus now a serious consideration. Mason Mount blocked Man United from signing the best striker in the world. Scott McTominay confirms Roy Keane fears about a toxic dressing room. And United make Anthony Martial transfer decision after striker hits new low against Bournemouth. All that coming up. So first up, we've got the Irish Mirror. Man United make Anthony Martial transfer decision after striker hits new low against Bournemouth. The decline of Martial, injuries aside, it shouldn't injure your attitude. I mean, I think he's just completely fallen out of love with the game. And I think he's just going through the motions to pick up his 1 million a month. Because he didn't even do it at Sevilla, not even a fresh environment helped, light a fire under Martial's ass. So it's not pride that he wants to improve for. It's not kind of a sense of, duty to himself, his club, the fans. It's not even a different environment like Sevilla, beautiful city in Spain, always thereabouts for the most part, most seasons, especially in the Europa League. And I can't remember a player that has declined so remarkably towards what should be the peak of their career, other than maybe Adriano when he was at Inter and his father died and he just lost the will to kick a ball, or maybe Hazard when he went to Real Madrid at his peak and just collapsed due to injuries. The injuries were because of his complete lack of professionalism and his inability to train correctly and take care of his body, taking his youth and its ability to keep him going for granted. And when that was no longer there, the seeds you sow in your youth are the fruits you reap when you're older. And the land was barren for old Eden. And it looks like Martial just mentally is completely checked out. So United will apparently allow Martial to leave on a free transfer at the end of the season. He's United's second longest serving player, which is a damning indictment of the club, that a fella who has been so poor for so long. Now, Gary Neville has been saying it on the overlap when they did a piece of, keep, last straw or ditch. And they went through, majority of the United first team. And obviously they all decided that Martial should go. But he said United kept him 4 years ago. Remember, Jose just wanted shot of him completely. I mean, Mourinho, for all you want to say about him, he got it spot on with a bunch of United's players. Absolutely nailed it. And he's against the players. He's upsetting the players. He's turning against the team. Typical Jose. In hindsight, I think we should all feel a little bit foolish for thinking that Jose was, being mean to these guys, because they've shown themselves to be a pile of pricks. If I'm being honest, Martial, Lingard, Pogba, Rashford, Sancho, all these, young up and coming players that, should all be together at the club winning trophy after trophy. That is a fine collection of players I just named. And they've all fallen flat due to their own hubris, arrogance, lack of professionalism, and whatever else you want to say. Lingard found himself at Forest now looking at playing in some duffer league. I mean, Lingard, ever since he's left United, he had a little bit of a swan song at West Ham that reminded people he could play a bit of ball. But no one really came in for him, and he's kind of floundering now. Pogba has just disintegrated. I think Sancho's career is going to go the way of Martial. I think he's just going to fall down the footballing pyramid after a few years. Martial has just fallen apart, and Rashford hasn't been able to get a consistent run of form since he was 17 years of age. All of them exactly the same. It's so sad, because on paper and in their youth, all those players playing together in the same team should have been mouth-watering. And they've all just fallen apart. And I don't know whether the club is to blame. Does the club make this happen to players? Does they just lose the will to live and to play because they're just allowed? But again, you want players in that change that ethos. That you want players to, players shouldn't just be the recipients of things. They need to give. They need to transmit. They need to project professionalism into a club, into a team, into your teammates, into the fans, into everything. It should permeate out of you. You're not just buying skill, you're buying mindset, attitude, upbringing, discipline. That's what you're buying. And too often I think United have bought talent without the manhood behind it, to be honest. So United, Martial is United's second longest serving player behind Shaw. Having joined the club from Monaco for 36 million in 2015, 90 goals, 317 matches across all competitions, but has been ineffective this season, finding the net just twice in 19 games. Very, very poor. 28-year-old contract was due to expire in June. Now, there was a lot of talk of United extending it because they wanted to get a price for him. The risk is that United extend his contract by a year, and number one, he stays on his 250 grand a week wages. So if they want to get rid of him in January, they can't. They're going to have to lower the buying price by probably 5 or 6 million due to the wages. and due to the fact that he's going to be closer to the summer transfer window. He's going to be 29. He's got injury problems. He's shown in the last 2 years that the guy basically... But what club in their right mind is going to buy Anthony Martial? What club is going to do that? Like, I couldn't believe any club went to buy Eric Bailly, and you can see he's just absolutely isolated at Besiktas now because of his injuries. I don't understand why any club would buy a player who's crocked and whose just inability to be on the pitch, and then when they're on the pitch to perform at any sort of a level. I don't know who would take a punt on Martial at this stage. I think United know that. If they give him an extra year, he's just going to be sitting on the shelf gathering dust for a year. And you're just going to have paid him another, what is it going to put, $1 million a month? They're going to have to pay 12 million quid to have him on the books, with the hope of getting what from someone? 30 million for a 29-year-old Martial? Would you get 30 million for him? So you're risking 12 to make 18. So it's basically, if you're on Paddy Power, it's like a 12-5 bet that someone's going to come and buy him either in the summer or January next year. I don't see that happening. I think you're better off just cutting your losses on the guy and just waving bye-bye. Thanks very much. Cheers for turning up and letting us all down. The Athletic reports that United are happy to let him walk away for nothing in order to free up space in their squad for new arrivals. They would also be willing to sell him in the January window if a suitable bid arrives. So they might get 10 million for him off some team desperate to get, a tune out of someone that they think, like, someone could do to Martial what United have been doing to, Falcao and Di Maria and Ibrahimovic and Cavani and Ronaldo, trying to get a tune out of someone that had a lot of ability. And to even compare Martial with those names is a disservice to those names. So I apologize for that. But you might get someone who's going to try and get a tune out of him. He was given a rare opportunity against Bournemouth, but made no impact. Ten Hag was given a clear indication of the thoughts of the Old Trafford faithful, who cheered when Højlund was summoned. Ten Hag defended his decision 2 weeks ago against Everton. He played a very good game, so he has absolutely the competencies and abilities to play. So I don't think it's fair after a performance like this to go to one player. We as a group failed altogether. Yeah, but he's been... So Martial, in 9 years, he's won 2 FA Cups, a Carabao Cup, and a Europa League. Pretty poor, but he has endured many difficult spells. He's struggled with injuries and has often become a lightning rod for criticism from supporters during poor patches of form. He's been a peripheral figure in the past few seasons, sent on loan to Sevilla, where he failed to impress, scoring just once in 12 appearances. He's on $250,000 a week. And as exclusively reported by Mirror Football, United are tracking Leipzig striker Lois Openda as a possible replacement for Martial. The 23-year-old scored 14 goals in 21 games for Leipzig since his 35 million move from Lens, and could command a fee of 75 million. I don't see how you add 40 million onto your asking price and over double your money for 14 goals. I know it's in 21 games, but really? So yeah, I'd be wary paying 75 million quid for a 23-year-old who's got 14 goals in the Bundesliga. We've been burned before from that league. So anyway, interesting. Okay, so let's go to Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay confirms that Roy Keane's fears over United dressing room were spot on. So the midfielder admitted that the dressing room has been, quote unquote, a little bit toxic under previous managers after speaking out in defense of Ten Hag. McTominay's been a very vocal supporter of Ten Hag recently, which is nice to see. So United now enter a pivotal week with a do-or-die Champions League clash with Munich. I don't think anyone's expecting us to get anything out of this game. Preceding a trip to Liverpool at the weekend. To be honest, I would completely fuck off the Bayern game and just get out of the Champions League and try and concentrate on not getting thrashed at Liverpool, and fuck the cups, and United just need to focus on the league. Every ounce and every drop of energy needs to go into trying to finish in that top 4, because we've seen Spurs, fall back, Newcastle losing games, Brighton losing games. Liverpool are capable of being beaten. That 4th spot is still open to United, and with a lot of other teams with responsibilities in other tournaments, I think United mean, it'd be nice to have United in the Europa League, but it's just another distraction. The way things have gone for United this season, there is no way in hell they're winning anything. There's zero chance of them winning anything. The only thing they can try and do now is sustain some sort of a campaign to try and get fourth. Anything else is just a distraction and ultimately doesn't really matter. It's just extra games for a super thin squad. And if I had my way and I could click my fingers, I would have United out of every competition and just concentrating on the league and trying to get fourth, to be honest, which sounds terrible. But from a purely practical standpoint, I don't think you can argue against that logic, to be honest. But, you know, feel free to. Thoughts in the comments. Speaking ahead of the Bayern game, McTominay said of United's current plight, it is the players' responsibility first and foremost. The players know that as well. We've had many amazing players, and right now we're at the stage where we have big characters in the dressing room. It's not just a case like some of the other managers where it's been a little bit toxic at times. So I imagine that's Ollie and Rangnick. The boys are firmly behind the manager. That's pretty emphatic. I've said that in many other interviews, and that is the way it will stay. We've got an amazing coaching staff as well, so it can get lost in translation with what the players think and what is said behind closed doors. But we just have to do well for the club. We just want to do well for the football club. So while McTominay's words will come as a timely boost for Ten Hag, his comments on the dressing room's attitude echo what Roy Keane said. So Keane said this back in 2022. For all the issues they have, the chaos seems to be all over the club. If you haven't got a decent dressing room, forget about it. You're in trouble anywhere. We've seen with Man United, when things go against them, that's it. They almost throw the towel in. It's a bad reflection of senior players at the club. And I agree. As much as there's Bruno fans out there, I think the fact that Bruno is captain is a poor reflection on the strength of leadership within the club, because Bruno Fernandes is not a good captain. If I'm being honest, I think he's a good player. I think he's a good voice to have in a dressing room. He is not a leader. There is a certain mentality you need to lead men, and you need to be cool. You can lose the rag. You can scream and shout. We've all seen some of the best captains in the world be very, very vocal, but there is a control to the way they are emotional. There is a directed ferocity, whereas Bruno seems to be more on the whingy side. And there are layers to vocalizing your emotions. You can do it with strength, or you can do it with weakness. And I believe there's a lack of control and a lack of strength in Bruno's outbursts. I think he has periods where he's a good captain. I think he does have abilities to be a captain, but I don't think he is good enough to be the captain of Manchester United, not to get them back to where they need to be. So yeah, young players getting carried away and thinking they're players. A bad dressing room, forget about it. You've got no chance. Probably right there, Roy. So Mason Mount blocked United from signing the best striker in the world. I said this on my last episode, that Mason Mount, while I'm sure he's a fine player, I cannot understand why we spent 55 million on him. I would have much rather that money go directly into the Harry Kane fund. And so the article goes on to say, it's funny this article came out because it's exactly what I said 2 days ago. Mason Mount blocked United from signing the world's best striker, according to a fresh report. Since securing a 55 million summer transfer from Chelsea to United, Mount has endured a difficult few months plagued by poor form and recurring injury issues. According to a fresh Mail report, Mount's move partly deterred the Old Trafford club from signing the best striker in the world, Harry Kane. For United not to have got Kane, to me, is one of the... And there are so many examples to choose from in the last 10 years from United as a club. The absolute disasters they've had across the board, year after year, in so many different transfers. But for me, not getting Harry Kane is as bad as any of the transfers we have made. I prefer to do something and regret it than not do something and regret it. Not doing something, not only are you regretting it, but you kind of show a lack of balls or belief in yourself, or at least the desire and willingness to make a positive step instead of just sitting idly by and missing opportunities. To not sign Harry Kane when he was available was monstrously stupid from a club that has been dying for a prolific, guaranteed goal scorer. Harry Kane would have brought a huge amount to this team. When you think how much this team has blown on bad signings, yes, he would have been expensive. We have made a heap of very expensive mistakes. This, at least, you were guaranteeing goals. It would have been the most obvious win for a United board that chase big names, but always seem to chase the wrong ones for grossly inflated prices, and they usually don't go that well. This was an absolute home run, and they absolutely shit the bed. I can't believe they let Harry Kane slip through their fingers. It's baffling. So Kane is on course to have his most prolific season yet, having managed 22 goals and 7 assists for Bayern Munich in just 19 games. Now, Bundesliga is a tier 2 league. I've said this 1,000,001 times on this channel. He's going to have stupid amounts of goals by the end of this season, as well as adding 4 goals for his country this term. The England captain has taken to life seamlessly in Bavaria since his £86 million move, according to the Mail. Daniel Levy was under pressure from Spurs owner Joe Lewis to sell Kane, who only had a year left on his contract. However, Levy reportedly told United he would not sell the striker to a Premier League rival. Concerned that Levy might string them along throughout the summer and then pull the plug, United reportedly decided that with their restricted budget, they could not hold off on deals for Mason Mount and Andre Onana. I get that, but I can't excuse missing out on a talent like Harry Kane, who wanted to stay in the Premier League. He said his preference was United. If they'd come in, he'd have gone for them. He said it. Having signed Casemiro and Antony late in the window in charge of a season prior, they wanted to lock down their key signings early, which was nice to see. We haven't done our business early and promptly and professionally in a long time. So I get the desire there. They didn't want to get strung along all summer and then get let down and look dumb like they did with the De Jong transfer. I get that. But then just get the deal done. Be professional. Give them 120 million. Give them 110 million. Just get the deal done. As per the publication, they believe, like, if you can sell, if you can buy, if you can buy Antony for 100 million quid, an unknown quantity from the Netherlands, a guy who's unproven at the highest level, and spend 100 million quid on him, I don't see how you can't spend that on David De Gea. As he was entering the final year of his contract at Chelsea, so addressed it as a priority. Meanwhile, Onana was a necessity after the departure of De Gea. The Mail added that signing a goalkeeper also ended any consideration for signing 2 strikers after United considered bidding for Kane and Brighton's Evan Ferguson, 2 players I absolutely wanted United to get. As much as I like Højlund, I would trade a Højlund for an Evan Ferguson in a heartbeat. I genuinely would. I think Evan Ferguson is an absolute stud of a player. That's not just the Irish in me. I think that kid is going to be an absolute killer. And United should get Evan Ferguson without a shadow of a doubt. Ultimately, the club ended up with Rasmus Højlund, who has netted 5 goals in 5 Champions League games, but yet to hit the target in his first 12 Premier League encounters. So yeah, interesting stuff there about the Kane Mount saga. And finally, problematic United star now open to discussing January exit after big U-turn. Ten Hag relief as Dutchman gets his way. So United are trying to find a way to offload Sancho in January, and reports suggest he's now open to joining Juve. The England international has been banished from the first team. We all know this. I'm not going to go over it again. It's pretty much well covered as it stands. However, Ten Hag is desperate to get rid of the winger in January. Several teams have been linked. Of course, United have been linked with Daniel Malen as a kind of a swap with Dortmund. That's like, someone selling you a Mercedes for 100 grand, and it's a piece of shit that doesn't work. And then they've got a Beamer, and then they say, listen, give us the Merc back and we'll give you the Beamer as a straight swap. Otherwise, you can just give us 30 million. You can give us 60 grand for the Beamer, and you can keep the Merc. Would you buy a car off a fella that sold you that heap of shit? No, you wouldn't. So why are you going to go back to Dortmund yet again? I mean, I heard this argument. Someone was saying stay away from Dortmund, and I echo those sentiments. We just don't seem to do well with transfers from Dortmund. And then, the channel I heard this they were like, well, what about Bellingham? What about Haaland? Yeah, but we didn't get those players. It always seems the players we get are the ones that don't work out. So Mkhitaryan, Kagawa, and now Sancho. I'm just tired of getting our fingertips burned by Dortmund, by players that we always think are going to do it for us, and they just don't. So as it stands, however, Ten Hag is desperate to get rid of the rid of the winger. United paid 73 million to sign Sancho in 21, and they're keen to get as much money back as possible. You're not going to get that at Juve. Juve don't have as much spending power as some of the wingers, other suitors, but could sell Tottenham target Samuel Illing Jr. to help boost their funds. Now, a fresh report has revealed that Sancho was open to have a conversation with the Italian Giants representatives. I'd say he's not getting as many offers as he thought he might, because given how he's played at United when he's been given a chance at the top level, and given his attitude, and word travels within footballing communities among scouts and, directors and agents, and, news travels. It happens. And I would say the reports on one Mr. Sancho are fairly poor, especially with Matic now coming out saying himself and Pogba were consistently late. Just shows a total lack of professionalism, utter selfishness, and that kind of a player, they're never going to grow up. If they haven't grown up by the age of 23, 24, that's who they are. They're not going to magically just start caring about other people at that age. If the penny hasn't dropped, then it's not going to drop. The report claims that the Turin-based club have been working with market intermediaries to explore a deal for the United winger. Juventus have made an offer to sign Sancho on loan with an option to buy, but they want the Red Devils to pay 2/3 of the 250 grand per week. I mean, get in the bin, lads. You want us to pay 170 grand a week for a player that's not on our books? Forget it. They're said to be waiting for better offers, but are aware of the offer from Juventus with that in mind, because he's Sancho making the switch to Serie A. Interestingly, Sancho isn't the only high earner Ten Hag is looking to move on this winter. United are against the contract extension of Martial. We know this. So that's pretty much it. I'd be absolutely shocked if United, especially given how poor they've been, I would not be surprised to see them bring in a new striker. In the shape of Serhou Guirassy, Bundesliga player. I don't think we'll buy him outright. I think he's one of these guys that's just hitting a rich vein of form. He's 26, 27. He's been in the Bundesliga all his life. No one's ever heard of him until now. He's banged in 16 goals in 11 games. He just seems to be on form. We need someone that's just better than Martial. He's got a cheap buyout clause at 18 million quid. He might be worth a punt. Maybe United can swap Martial for him to go to the Bundesliga. I don't know whether they'd be up for that at Stuttgart, but United definitely need a striker to shoulder some of the responsibility that Højlund is clearly having issues dealing with at the moment, especially in the Premier League. We're going to go and get Jean-Claire Todibo. We need a defender. That much is abundantly clear. United are leaking goals at a rate the likes of which I've never seen, and they're just not able to play out from the back the way they want to. So I think it's absolutely dead on that United are going to be making a number of acquisitions in January, at least 2, in my opinion. I think a striker is going to be brought in, at least temporarily, to help Højlund while United get their targets ready for the summer. And I think they're going to get Jean-Claire Todibo, because Ratcliffe owns the club he plays for. We want him, we need him, and I don't see that not happening. So I'm predicting those 2 players coming in January, and potentially Antonio Silva from Benfica as well. But I don't think Benfica are going to be too keen on losing their young centre-back hotshot in the middle of the season. However, money does talk, and Benfica have a very good track record of maximising whatever they get from the Premier League for their stars. So let's see what happens. But that is it for the news today. So that is the news for today, Tuesday, December 12th. What do we think? Sancho gone January, 2/3 of his wages. Wouldn't be a fan of that deal myself, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I'd be, although, the given how that has gone down, the cards are very much in the buying club's hands, because it's clear that he's a problem that United need rid of. So that dramatically knocks down his purchase price. So yeah, that's going to be a strange one. I think the priority is getting him out of the club as opposed to getting a good price, but that might be Ten Hag's priority. It certainly wouldn't be the board's priority. As we know, they're money men. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that Sancho one turns out. McTominay, with regards to toxic dressing room in the past, what do we think of that? Is it completely gone? I don't think so. But a very important match against Bayern, and to be honest, I would drop McTominay, because other than his goals, which always sounds ridiculous, all he does is score goals, but McTominay's presence in that team makes us weaker. He's not a strong presence in the midfield. He's not Bruno Fernandes. He's not a traditional attacking player, and yes, our attackers have not been scoring, but there's no point having your midfielders out of position to try and score goals and then leaving ourselves completely exposed at the back. He's not good at carrying the ball. He's got a good shot. He's strong. He's powerful. He's basically like a Scottish Fellaini, to be honest. I wouldn't have him next door near that first team anymore. Amrabat did okay against Chelsea. There is a player there, but do we spend 40 million on him? I just don't know. I don't know if he's worth 40 million. I'll be watching him with a keen eye from now until the end of the season, but I would be partnering Amrabat with someone else in that midfield. I would not have Scott McTominay there at all. I think it's important to bring. I'd have Van de Beek in there ahead of McTominay, if I'm being perfectly honest. So yeah, it'll be an interesting game against Bayern. And do you think we should kind of give up on these cup competitions just so we can concentrate on the league? That would certainly be my stance. I think there's a lot of logic to it. Mightn't sound very gung-ho, and we need to compete on all fronts. We've been shown as fans that this team is in absolute disarray, and this season is a write-off. I'm still going to watch the game, support. I want to see progress. That is going to be my mini victories with every game that I watch. Are we moving forward as a team, as a club? Is he moving forward in his project as a manager? That's the only thing I care about, and I just want to see as few injuries as possible. I want to see some smart recruitment in January. I think it's guaranteed we're going to be bringing in players, at least one striker and at least one defender. I think your man Serhou Guirassy from Stuttgart is going to be coming in because he is a cheap in-form option for United to go for, in lieu of going after a more established and far more pricey option in the summer. And I think Jean-Claire Todibo is almost guaranteed to be coming in January, given his connections to Nice and Ratcliffe, and our clear and desperate need for a defender in the January window. I mean, it's screaming out we need reinforcements, particularly with Varane seemingly dropped. It looks like Casemiro and Varane are out the door, and a lot of players are going to be put up for sale. I think it's Casemiro, Varane, Sancho, Martial and Van de Beek. 5 of them are basically up for sale in January, and I think Ten Hag will be happy to see the back of them. Poor El Donny, eh? So yeah, thoughts on the news. What do you think that scoreline is going to be against Bayern? I think it's going to be a tough one, but my main concern is Liverpool, to be quite honest. I don't care about losing to Bayern Munich, but I don't even mind losing to Liverpool 1-0. I don't want to lose, but God, I don't want to get thumped 5 or 6, and I think that's a very, very real possibility. But listen, stranger things have happened. But we don't have Ollie as manager, and he was always good for a big comeback against a rival, so let's see how things pan out. As always, thank you very, very much for joining me, and I will see you on the next one.